This is Sandi Krakowski, and welcome to A Real Change. Hey, it's so good to be with you, Holly.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be on your show.
Well, we're excited to have you, and Lane has really stirred us up, and I knew I had to get his bride on here.
Oh, gosh.
And have some girl power talk and have some fun. So tell us what you do, what you're passionate about, something that no one on the internet knows about you, and we can go from there.
Sure. So I guess I probably should start with what my credentials are. So that explains what I do. So my background is in dietetics. So I guess I used to do a lot of sport when I was really young, track athletics, basketball. I think my mum put us into every single sport you could ever imagine. And that kind of, I just grew into a love and a passion for physical activity, sport, nutrition, and everything to do with that. Like I'm just super interested in like how that all works. It's such a dynamic process. So I went and got qualified. I did my undergraduate in food science and nutrition. So I love cooking, love baking, anything to do with, I guess, the science of food. And then I went on and did my master's degree in dietetics. So I guess what I do today kind of reflects all of that. So my past as a young girl doing a lot of sport and then growing into, I guess the education side of all of that. So my day-to-day role is many things. Way too many things, to be honest. But primarily, I do one-on-one coaching. So I work with about 100 clients at the moment. And then outside of that, we have a nutrition coaching app, which we've just launched. I have a glute band company. I train a lot. And then we also have a team of coaches. Like everything's to do with nutrition and education and helping people, I guess, better their bodies in a sustainable, evidence-based way. So, yeah.
So good. And I will tell you, I am a firm believer, and here's my Carbon app, and I'm so excited about it. And I have used another app that we won't mention. And I love the macro feature, and I love the coaching features on it. It's amazing.
Oh, that's so good.
And I love it because you're a foodie.
Yes, big time foodie. I don't think, I would have a hard time trusting somebody that didn't love food.
So,
it's got to taste good. So I think, being able to pair, having a good physique, training hard, but then like really enjoying food. I think a lot of people just assume that those two things really can't go together. It's like, well, if they look good, well, they must eat less,
Yeah.
And it's just not the case. So I'm all about, creating new foods that kind of fit within my caloric needs. It's got to taste good. So
it's so good. So what are your top 3 reasons why you go to the gym? Is food one of them?
You know what? I probably would have said yes a little while ago, but no, I think it's just grown with me as I've gotten older. It's always been a part of my life. And I think I have always enjoyed competition. Growing up doing basketball and athletics, there was always like a competitive aspect of the sports that I did. So as I got to college and I couldn't really continue to participate in, that kind of sport, mainly for the reason that when you live in Australia, like sport as a career, it's just not a thing. You're either a jacked athletic male. No, not at all. Sports for females in Australia as a career, forget about it if you want to have any kind of income. So, yeah, unless you're a dude and you're playing AFL, you don't do sport. You may have an interest in it. So I think for me, that's kind of how I gravitated into gym and lifting and just, staying active. It kind of fit my schedule. I could do it whenever I wanted. Yeah. So I guess it's just grown with me. So now I do it as a habit. It's a hobby. I love it. I think some people find it, it's awful. Like they hate training and exercising. I could not be more opposite. It's part of my lifestyle.
I love it too.
Yes, I've seen all of your posts. You do a lot of exercise and fitness. Good on you, girl.
Well, 3 years ago, couldn't even hardly walk around my own block. And so it's people like you, literally, Holly, who've inspired me and encouraged me. And one of the big reasons why I do like you is because you eat. You are not a part of the Salad Girl Club. And
I have a comment on that.
Yeah, aside from keeping me off the streets, eating is another motive why I like to go to work out.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a benefit for sure.
So tell me about the Salad Girl Club.
Oh gosh, I think when I met Lane, actually, I think one of the first few times that we went out for dinner together, I could tell like he was kind of like, he's a nutrition guy. So This is my husband, for anyone that doesn't know him, Lane. We're eating together, and I think he was just analyzing what I was going to choose. And I kind of looked at him, and I remember saying, I was like, I'm not going to order a salad. Like, there's no chance you will ever catch me eating a salad if I go out for dinner. Like, I couldn't think of anything worse. Like,
exactly.
Like, there's so many good things on the menu. If I can make it fit,
spinach. That could be worse.
I mean, if it's maybe drizzled in butter and some slivered almonds,
that's it.
That's
Parmesan cheese, side of wine, a whole bottle.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Well, and there's a lot of people who assume that if you have abs or you're serious in the gym, that you're starving yourself. Mm-hmm. You said something I don't hear very often, and that's the science of food. Mm-hmm. So tell me more about that and just how we can eat to keep our body burning calories.
Well, I think that's another misconception. I think a lot of people think that if they're not active and they're not doing something, then they don't really deserve to eat. And it's just not the case. We have our basal metabolic rate. Our body has a requirement for energy just to keep the lights on, for the organs to function, for the blood to pump, the heart to move, So we need to have a certain amount of calories. And then I guess for every individual, depending on what their occupational activity is like or their planned exercise, the energy need on top of that is going to, differ quite significantly. So I think something that is really important to recognize is that it doesn't really, provided that you have an understanding of energy balance and what your body's nutritional requirements are, you can choose any dieting strategy to suit you and your preferences. It's all about being able to sustain it long term. So if you've tried, a process that is, let me just throw out a random diet. I guess the ketogenic diet's kind of been a bit of a phase. I guess the paleo diet. There are so many, intermittent fasting. There's probably a list of 10 at least.
Right.
And the reason that people have success on these, as I'm sure you know, it's just that they're putting you into a deficit. It's as simple as that. And people will have great success. But I think the problem is if they've tried an approach that doesn't really go with their lifestyle, it doesn't fit their food preferences, whilst they may have had some initial success, the weight ends up coming back on when they go back to the way that they prefer to eat. Yeah. So I think learning how to create a deficit using the foods that you like is super important. So I guess coming back to your question about food science, I mean, every single food and all of its constituents, they have a number, I guess. They have a certain amount of macronutrients, proteins, carbohydrates, fats. And provided that you are learning about what's in those foods, you can make them fit within your nutritional requirements. And that is a skill. It takes time and patience. Two things that people don't often have a lot of. But if you invest in that little bit of knowledge, I think, I guess, the overall improvements in quality of life can be it's a game changer when it comes to fat
Very
loss.
much. So, I mean, I can't live without chocolate or Cocoa Puffs, and I make them fit my macros.
I know. Like, gosh, I think my friends and I, we went for a drive down to Sarasota Beach. It's a nice beach here in Florida. And they have amazing donuts. It's called 5-0 Donuts. So shout out to those guys. These are like, I've never seen so many different types of donuts in one display. It must be like 30 different varieties. And they're all either stuffed with like, I don't know, apple cinnamon fillings or cream fillings, caramel fillings, like just everything. Yeah, I know. I'm such a foodie. And like they weigh about, 200 grams. So yes, it's pretty dense. So I could have one and I could probably make it fit my macros. Yeah. But I guess the consequences are, and the reality is I probably wouldn't get to eat anything else for the rest of the day. So when you know what's in something, like you really start to learn, I guess, what foods you prioritize and what's important to you. And as you learn that, it kind of becomes easier to say, I'm going to hold off on that, second serving of fries because I know I want this later, which is more important to me. It's, my value systems. So, yes.
Okay, I have a confession to make. I've actually sat in the grocery store and looked at the cereal and gone, okay, that one says I get a quarter of a cup. That one says I get a cup and a half.
Yeah, but I mean, that's a good thing to do. I think so many people don't take the time to just read the label.
Yeah.
And I guess in that situation for a lot of us, we would just kind of throw our hands up in the air and go, oh, well, I'm just not going to have it. And then they're going to deprive themselves, and that's going to lead to, I guess, constant thoughts of that food. And eventually when they have no more willpower left, they're just going to go, stuff it, I'm going to eat it all anyway. So, I mean, if you had have invested some time on the front end and maybe learned a little bit more about what's, the constituents of food, you could have fixed your cereal.
Very much. Yeah. So instead of being able to get a cup and a half a day or a half a cup or whatever as a pre-workout or whenever you want it, sometimes I want it right before bed and I can make it work. If I deprive myself a week or two of that, I'll probably eat the whole damn box.
Yeah, exactly. And that's it's like you want, when you restrict, you end up wanting it more.
Yes.
And I guess we only have so much willpower in a 24-hour period. And it's not like we have a box of willpower for, our business and our work, because hell, that's stressful. Then we have a box of willpower for our training and then our diet. Like, it's all the same thing. So generally, like most of us, we're pretty good at the beginning of the day, but then by the end of the day, once all that stress and anxiety or whatever it is that starts to accrue, like, you're really starting to run a fine line of, giving in. So
seriously.
It's tough, but
Okay, so Holly, step away from first tell them what you've done actually in bodybuilding with your trophies, and you're just stunning, and your natural beauty coming through. I mean, I look at you, you're like silk over steel. That's just what I call it. And so it's amazing because you haven't lost any of your femininity. You're very strong. You're foodie. You're my kind of girl. So step away and show them she does lift a little bit.
I don't lift at all. No. So I guess let's talk about accolades, I guess. I've actually been doing bodybuilding for that long. So my first show was in 2015, and it actually kind of was brought to me like, hey, you should do this show, because I was coaching people for shows at the time. And one of my girls, she had to pull out for some reason. I think she had some kind of emergency, and she said, well, how about you take my bikini and how about you go and compete? You look great. So I was like, oh, what are the perks? And I found out if you won your local, so your state show and the nationals, there was a world championships in Dubai. And that had always been one of the places that I'd wanted to travel to. So honestly, my motivation was, I just want to go to Dubai. So what a great opportunity. So I better win. And that's what I did. So I did an 8-week prep. I was granted already in a pretty good shape. But now I look back at those competitions and I go, wow, I've just completely transformed my body in this time.
Yes, you have.
So first show was in 2015. I did 3, kind of almost back to back, and then did worlds, won my first world title. So that was for the natural INBA.
Right.
That's one of the common natural bodybuilding federations in Australia. And then I kind of just went on from there. I moved into the IFBB and competed in figure. I was too muscular at that point to be a bikini girl, so that was kind of the only trajectory to go to, and did very well. I placed second at nationals in 2016 and have won many state shows, and I kind of took a step back and was looking at the type of figure, I guess, that was winning in the international scene. So looking at the girls in America, and the IFBB is an untested federation, as you're probably aware. So being a natural girl and having no desire to get to that level, I felt a little bit lost, I guess, because I was like, well, I've got a lot of muscle, but I don't want to have to put on that much muscle, and I don't want to take drugs. It's against my my flow. So,
right, exactly, yeah.
I guess that was kind of when I transitioned into the WBFF federation. So that, even though that's an untested federation, they don't encourage that really harsh masculine look. The current world champs, Stephanie and Hattie, two of my girls, they're beautiful. They're stunning. They've got amazing glutes, big thighs, like, but then, you know, small waist, just very feminine. So that was kind of the federation that I thought I would suit. And you also have the opportunity to kind of do the theme wear and pick like whatever you want. And
so fun.
It's like a Broadway show. It's like Victoria's Secret on steroids. Like, it's just a really fun experience. And that was just so much more appealing to me than, you know, the rigidity. It's just more fun. So I don't want to look like a man. No. So I guess I got to Worlds last year in 2019. They announced the top 10, but then they actually only then made an official announcement for the top 3 on stage, and they never made any, they never posted the results anywhere else. So I can say I got in the top 10 at Worlds for the WBFF for fitness.
Amazing.
And then I took a break.
Yes,
so I've been building for the last 6 months.
Yeah, and you just started a new diet with your Carbon app, and you've got a group that you're doing. Is it 10 weeks?
12 weeks. So
12 weeks.
Yeah, that
12 weeks of 1,500 calories?
Well, it'll probably be, I don't know. I'm not sure what will happen with my nutrition. It depends how my body responds. So, it's a 12-week Get Lean and Train with me. For me, this fat loss phase is going to be a little bit more, I guess, relaxing, hopefully, and a bit more enjoyable because there isn't the pressure to get on stage at the end. And that's all I've ever known. But it's also, you run a fine line when you're a competitor in, you know, perhaps developing some less than optimal, I guess, relationships with food. It is psychologically challenging to do a prep and to get that lean. So I found that over the course of the years of doing this that I guess I became a little bit rigid in my approach, and it wasn't good for my mental health based on my lifestyle. You know, I have kids now, 2 kids, 2 beautiful stepchildren. I have a husband that I have to give attention to. I have businesses, and to be successful on that level requires so much discipline, and it's very selfish. And I didn't like how that was affecting my life for this lifestyle that I live. So this fat loss phase is going to be a little bit more relaxed. You know, if I have something that comes up, I'm going to take a couple of days of a diet break and, you know, eat at maintenance and enjoy myself and not put so much pressure to lose. But gosh, I can tell you now, I hope my calories don't go down too much lower. But again, it's just how your metabolism responds.
And I can totally relate because I competed in my 20s.
Did you?
And completely lost myself. Was in the East Coast Championship and body dysmorphia was so bad. I began to think 4.5% was normal. That's insane. I cannot believe.
Isn't it?
That was back in the Corey Everson days when you do not have a butt. And your goal is to diet your butt and your thighs away. And I am genetically wired to have a big butt.
Glutes. Hey, girl, you're in a good position.
Now I am. I didn't even know until September of 2017 when I walked into the gym. I was like, people are actually trying to get a big butt now.
Glute fats became a thing.
Speaking to just, you know, we only have so much priority, and you're running a business now with your new husband, you have 2 stepkids, and you said something that very few people will be bold enough to say, and that is, it is selfish to think that I can actually give what I need to. So speaking to that, I want to hear more. I really appreciate that your values there.
I think my lifestyle has been very different, I guess, throughout the course of my adulthood. And I've been like very much a bit of a lone stag. I would say like strong, independent, don't need no man, you know, living in different countries, living on my own and really just growing my businesses. And I haven't really had to pay too much attention to other areas. You know, I haven't lived with my family since I was 17 years old. I moved away for college. That was in another state. And it was across the water. So, you know, I haven't had a lot of, I guess, connections that I've needed to keep strong. And it enabled me to have that career and to do all of these shows. But, you know, as you are trying to, you know, fit in time for all of the things that are important to you, bodybuilding is really challenging. And I think there's a lot of unknown truths about, the discipline that's required. And whatever the case, whatever you see on social media about people that are constantly in great shape, there's probably a lot of sacrifice that people aren't aware of. So I'd love to speak on that. And I think hopefully it kind of enlightens a few people. If you perhaps had, thought, gee, I wonder how they do this. They always look so good. They must be so happy. Oh, look at that gorgeous couple. Like, oh, they live in the dream. Well, first off, let's talk about libido.
Let's talk about libido.
So as your body fat levels decline, your leptin levels decrease, your hunger hormones are raging, the last thing you were thinking about is, hey, let's hop in the sack.
That's it.
It's for men, especially, like a lot of the pro bodybuilders, by the time they're, maybe 6 or 7 weeks out, they're completely hypergonadal. They're not producing any testosterone. So they're more interested in the pizza, like sitting in the fridge, than their wife walking past. Like, that's how you know you're lean. So I think it might look good, but like the discipline to kind of just completely turn that away, like turn food away as well, like it's really challenging. So for people that are able to do that, they're probably not foodies, because I know for me how much I struggle with it. As somebody that enjoys eating, like it's hard. The period of dieting is always hard. So there's the libido stuff.
You can smell really food through the packages in the grocery store. I remember smelling bread through the wrapper, going, "What's wrong with my brain?"
Right. So, but that's a normal response. Like, it's an evolutionary mechanism that is protecting us from starvation. And I mean, it's great from the evolutionary perspective. But for today's day and age, where food is surplus and plentiful, and we have access to everything at any time of the day, like it's a genetic, inherent change that we probably don't need anymore because we have a surplus of food. But I think dieting can really have a negative impact on relationships if you are getting that lean. So that's something that's not often talked about. And I know I've experienced that. And poor Lane, I just say to him every time I'm going to get on stage, I'm like, honey, I'll just see you in a few months. So it's tough. But I guess moving beyond that, I guess some of the other things that a lot of people aren't prepared to share are, I guess, the changes in mood. So mood disturbances, high levels of irritability, I guess very frustrated, angry, and it can just feel like the world is coming down on you. So in our research publication that we're going to be, I guess, getting out there very soon, we haven't started putting all the data together, but I can kind of talk on, I guess, the methods. So for the last 2 years, I've been collecting all of my data. So every week I would go in, or every other week I'd go in and get my metabolic rate tested. I would have all my skin calipers, body fat measurements done using ultrasounds, all of my hormones, like every parameter that you could potentially measure during contest prep, we measured. And during that phase, I guess, lost my train of thought.
No, you're good.
We were measuring all of those parameters, and one of the, I guess, questionnaires was, a psychological questionnaire, and it would ask about, on a scale, using a Likert scale of 1 to 10, how much was your sleep impeded or impacted, and how was your mood, or do you ever feel like something was overwhelming and that it was really negatively impacting your day-to-day function? And then it's also like, how does this diet impact your day-to-day living? Can you walk a set of stairs? Like, there's just so many questions that are in these Q&As.
Memory loss, fogginess.
Yes, just ability to function. So that
we're not even talking about physiologically losing your period and everything else that goes with that when you get that lean for competing.
Yes. So there's that aspect, the psychological aspect. I guess losses in strength. By the end of the prep, we were doing strength testing. I lost about 7 to 10% of my 1 rep max strength for my squats and my deadlifts.
Wow.
Just general energy. Like, it's hard, and people don't tell you that.
Oh no, the Instagram photos don't tell you that. Are you kidding me? It doesn't tell you that you were on the way to the gym and you forgot where you were. I remember competing and like sitting there in the road going, holy crap. Where am I?
Yeah, right.
Because you just go off into a daze when your sugar's so low and you're getting that lean. Nobody talks about that.
No, it's really frustrating. I think I really try to be as transparent as possible. I have a YouTube channel where I am kind of talking through every week just an update about the process at that time. So I've done a fat loss one, reverse one, and I try to lay it all out there because I think so many Instagram people just want to put the positives. And I mean, that's great. There's nothing wrong with being a positive person, but I think it's also to show, if you are having a bad day, let's talk about it. Like, okay, here are my struggles. This is what I'm going through. So, you're going after a long day of work. You've got to get to the gym at 9 o'clock to get that last bit of cardio in. Like, they're not things that people are sharing. No. So,
you'd rather be with your husband pouring a glass of wine at 9
Oh my God,
rather than doing your freaking cardio at the gym. And
Exactly. I was trying to write a book. We're doing the reverse dieting guide whilst I was prepping for Worlds and kind of after. And it was incredibly hard just to be able to sit down and concentrate and get words on paper, like incredibly difficult. So, and then trying to manage clients, trying to get all your training in. We were working on another business at that time. Like, it was just like my head was going to explode.
I can't even. Yeah. So it doesn't, you're the one who would put the caption of a really lean picture. And then underneath it say, haven't had my period for 4 weeks, have no sex drive, basically have no memory, can't seem to coherently communicate, but here's my picture.
Yes. No, I think there is a bit of a difference, I guess, between getting stage lean and just somebody like from the general pop trying to diet down. So whilst I've probably painted quite a negative picture for it.
No, it's all good. Realistic.
That is realistic, I guess, for people that are, at the competitive level, getting stage lean. But I think there is a lovely happy medium, thankfully.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there is a process that can be sustainable. And I guess knowing the science and having some education behind you in how you go about that approach can make all the difference. So I guess something that we've been really proactive about is just helping people to learn what is a sustainable approach to fat loss and how can we make it easier? What are your methods? So, we tried to get that across in all of the books. Yeah.
I wish I would have documented it more because something I didn't even have a chance to tell Lane. So I hope that you'll let him know about this. And I really want to have you talk about it. Is the reverse dieting aspect. And so 3 years ago, I hadn't been in the gym in 25 years and Crohn's disease and RA was weaning off of opiates and prednisone. And it was Lane's teaching on reverse dieting that helped me to go from eating 40 carbs a day to over 200 a day and actually accelerate my metabolism to be faster than when I was in my 30s. I'm 56.
Wow.
And so a lot of people might see reverse dieting as only for bodybuilding. Will you talk about how beneficial reverse dieting can be for women who maybe have over dieted or with hormone fluctuations, how it actually strengthens the body and can reboot that metabolism?
Yeah, so I guess the term was probably coined back in maybe 2012 BioLayne. So I've had the best person to kind of guide me through this, and then have play witness to coaching people, and then the research kind of followed. So the reverse diet, the purpose of it is to help restore your endogenous metabolism or your metabolic rate to its utmost potential whilst minimizing body fat regain. So what tends to happen is for a lot of people, men and women who go through this yo-yo dieting phase, is they'll drastically, that is the first mistake, drastically under eat and restrict their calories. And it's a very normal response for our metabolism to kind of slow down to, I guess, combat, potential starvation or death. It like I was talking about before, it's an evolutionary response. So the metabolism starts to slow down. And then usually people will have dieted for a point where they're done, they need to give up, or that's the end of the diet. And then they'll make the mistake of returning back to their pre-diet calories, or just, it might not even be like an excessive amount. It might just be an extra 500 calories that still feels very normal for them. But the consequence is they'll put on a tremendous amount of body fat, potentially regain everything that they lost and more. And then I guess if they repeat that process, then they'll restrict their calories again. They may lose the weight, and it's just a vicious cycle. And over time, what we see is people maintaining their weight on incredibly low calories, which doesn't make sense, but is a direct response or outcome to that years of dieting. And also potentially going absolutely nuts in the gym, like having to train every day, and they're not getting any progress. Like, I can't tell you the number of women who I've just had bawling. Like, I put in so much effort, I track my diet, but I'm struggling to lose weight on 1,200 calories, and it makes me sad. So this whole process is just, it's changed so many people's lives.
Very much.
I wish that I had known this when I was young, because I personally suffered with an eating disorder as a young girl. And I thought that, yes, and it's so many people don't talk about it. It's a bit of a taboo, but had I known what I know now about the reverse diet process, I would be a different human. I just know it. So I guess how the process works to repair somebody's metabolism is very slowly and gradually we start to reintroduce calories. And it's slow for a reason. It's so that our metabolism has time to kind of catch up and meet, the calories that we're consuming. And eventually over time, you'll be able to increase them, and get to a point where you're able to now finally eat a normal amount of calories. So 2,200
is my maintenance.
Good girl. 56. That's awesome. That's good. So I think the biggest fear for so many people about that whole process is like weight gain. It's like, well, I'm adding calories. How am I not going to gain body fat?
Right.
Well, there is a small risk. It depends on, the individual, how somebody will respond.
Right.
But generally, based on observations of having worked with hundreds of people through this process, and myself as well, I do this every year, is that you may have a little bit of body fat regain. But a little bit of body fat regain is actually necessary, particularly if you are trying to build muscle. Muscle doesn't just grow out of nothing. It needs calories to do that, a good amount of protein, and a resistance-based training program. So, but generally what we see is as calories increase, any body fat regained is far outweighed by the increases in calories. And we can actually determine when someone goes through a fat loss phase, through a reverse diet phase, okay, what amount of weight gain can we equate to the calories that you've increased?
Right.
But then the difference is your metabolism improving. So we can literally look at that and compare it. We talk about that in our book, The Reverse Dieting Guide. So many people have valued from this. Eventually, over time, if you go through a number of phases of this reverse diet, integrated with periods of fat loss, what we end up seeing is people's body weight kind of going down towards what their ideal is, but the calories are kind of on the way back up. So it's kind of like a bit of a roller coaster with, how we implement them. So to give you a very brief example, but this is not like the only way to do it, but I'll often do a 15, 20-week diet with diet breaks for those who are wanting to take those. That's periods at maintenance where I guess we're not intentionally trying to lose weight. It's just a break from the diet, and that's been shown to help mitigate decreases in our lean body mass as well as, I guess, minimize the risk of metabolic slowing. So compared to a continuous diet. So we'll do a period of dieting with those breaks, and then we'll kind of match the time frame for the reverse diet. And ideally, we're trying to maintain the end of diet body weight, but we're trying to score those calories right back up with minimal change. And then you repeat that process. So over time, you're getting people to their all-time ideal body composition, and we're getting it to them to their all-time ideal calories, which is just amazing. So
it is amazing because the other thing I found is because I knew I had to eat more if I'm going to work out and need more energy. Again, I was used to carbs like 40 or 60 for years.
Gosh.
and then sometimes maybe even 1,000 calories or 1,200.
Mm-hmm.
So whenever I would try to add protein shakes or whatever the typical advice is, I not only would get bloated, I'd get constipated, and then I felt like my metabolism slowed down. Mm-hmm. So with what you guys teach on reverse dieting, it inches your way up, and you wake up sometimes and you're like, holy crap, I ate 500 more calories per day this week, and I dropped 2 pounds, and I can see my abs.
I know.
And isn't that's the wildest that you feel like you're winning times 11 million,
Yes, that phenomenon, it probably takes place. Let me just think about the percentage just roughly. And this is anecdote, probably takes place in about 10% of the people that I work with. So when it comes to reverse dieting, they may gain a tiny little bit off the front end, and that's just generally due to increasing carbohydrate. Yeah. You've now got increased muscle glycogen stores, and when you store glycogen, it pulls in water. That's just how it's stored. Right. So there's usually an initial increase in weight just from the glycogen. It's not fat. But as their body kind of starts to relax a little and realizes, hey, she's feeding me, this is awesome.
Yeah, we're not starving.
Output, their NEAT, their non-exercise activity thermogenesis, so that's incidental movement, like fidgeting, just, being happy to walk the set of stairs instead of taking the lift, your unplanned activity like you're doing now, just moving around, animation, it starts to go up. And it can, for some people, end up overcompensating so much so that they actually drop weight, even though we've increased their calories, because now they've got newfound energy, their performance in the gym goes up, they're able to actually put in a good effort, they're lifting more, and then their weight does actually go down. And that absolutely seems to be the case for people that are starting off with a higher body fat percentage but have been restricted in calories for a long period of time. So yeah, that definitely is far more common in people that perhaps are a little bit more overweight at the beginning of a reverse diet, which is very motivating for them, in fact. It's
very motivating. And it also, in my personal experience, helped, and by following a lot of what you said, enabled me to look at my whole week and put in donuts where I wanted to on a treat meal day. Or like mine is, I swear by cheeseburger, French fry, bacon, mayo, give me the ketchup. I need a chocolate dessert too. Yeah. And then the next day is legs day, and you don't gain any weight. Many times you can even lose it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You wake up on Tuesday and you go, is it Friday yet?
Yeah, I know. I'm somebody that likes to try and include just a little something, I think, each day during the week. I think when I have enough calorie flexibility, when I'm getting down to the wiry end, I guess, of a contest prep, it's more select. Like I will just wait until the weekend when I've got some free time and I can sit down and enjoy it. Right. But when, like, I guess in an off season for me, I think the highest I've ever gotten my calories up to in my off season is about 2,500, and I'm not an adapter, or a responder. So when we think about how people respond to something like a reverse diet or even fat loss, we have people that seem to be able to increase calories by quite a bit, and their metabolism adapts very quickly, which is great in the case of a reverse diet, because all of a sudden people can just keep adding and adding and adding. I've had women that have been able to get the calories up to like 500 grams a day. Like I've had a couple of 25-year-olds that have been able to get over 500 and 90 plus grams of fat. And they're maintaining a body weight of like 62 kilograms, which blows my mind. That's like 134 pounds, right? Yeah. So we have people that are adapters, but on the same token, there are people that are able to do that. But when they diet down, because they're an adapter, their metabolism adapts down to those calories very quickly too. So in those situations, it's great for the people that are able to kind of get their calories up that high, because they have so much flexibility, to eat a variety of foods, to have a really good relationship with food and not feel restricted. But it still means that when they diet, it's going to be hard. Dieting isn't, if it wasn't easy, everyone would be walking around shredded. Right. But we have those adapters, and I'm not one of them, sadly. I'm just normal. I just kind of, I respond a little bit to both. So, I've been able to get my calories up to about 2,500. And when I have that kind of flexibility, I definitely like to just put a little something in every single day. I look forward to it. You work hard, long days, you want to come home and be able to have a bowl of ice cream or a donut or whatever it is.
So this just goes to show how long I've been watching Layne and you. what's inside the food safe. Do you still use the food safe? I remember you guys showing a safe that you actually put food in. I have a cabinet that's way on the other side of the house with the Twizzlers and the popcorn and the, the gummy bears and all that. What's inside your food safe right now?
Oh, the food we have Layne has in his off season, his calories are crazy. It'd be 4,500. So this man, you can't just say to him, well, just eat clean foods, honey. Just eat that stuff. He needs to eat those calorie dense foods so that he doesn't have fiber overflowing out of his esophagus. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for him, he has the normal regular whole foods that make up most of his diet. And then he'll be throwing in all the junk food that you can imagine. It was in my house. And here's me trying to get ready for Worlds. The most important thing. And I just open the cupboard and it's billowing out with Skittles. I'm just drowning in my kitchen with Tim Tams and jars of peanut butter. It's just overwhelming. So I like to make fun of him because he eats so much junk, but he can get away with it. He has the flexibility. He's worked hard to get his metabolism to where it is. But it definitely sits out of sight. And I think one of the strategies that can make very much easier for people to diet is not having things in your direct sight or line of sight. So whether that means that you're putting stuff up to, the top shelf. So for me, he will throw things up the back because I'd have to climb up onto the counter to find this stuff.
Who wants to do that?
It's sometimes I just know that would stop me from doing it because I'd have to exert effort to get to the cupboard. But I guess for stageling competitions, I just didn't want to have that temptation. So we have this great big, it's actually just in his office. It's just out upstairs. And all the cupboards are full of his favorite foods. And all the kids, they like to have, cookies and all the good stuff.
Right.
But it's just a way out of sight. We just didn't want them either just being able to grab whatever they want, whenever they want. So yeah, it
so
just stays
good.
up there.
It's so good. Okay, so Holly, do you guys work with women who are in their 40s and 50s and they're going through that big hormonal shift, but they also want to keep, for example, having body fat at 13% is great when you're 20 or 30, having body, mine tends to be around 18, 19%.
Yeah.
And so that's where you want it when you're my age, so that your skin looks great and your sex drive's still there and you still think you're not insane.
Yeah.
What do you have as words for women like that and going through that transition and doing a lot of what we've just talked about? Do you have any insight on that? Have you worked with groups like that?
Yeah, absolutely. Probably 50% of my clients at the moment are over the age of 40, 45. So yes, it's definitely a demographic that I work with.
Yeah.
I think the biggest challenge for a lot of the people that have started, following us is that they have a past. They have a chronic history of dieting. So a lot of these people are kind of, as I've described before, they're getting to the point where they feel like they can't maintain their weight unless it's incredibly low calories. They feel like they're overexerting themselves. They're doing, they're consistent with their training. And they're just in a really hard spot. And now let's throw menopause into that, where you've got changes to your estrogen levels, your progesterone. We're getting hormone shifts that are driving increases in body fluid. And I guess those hormones, specifically estrogen, it kind of acts in a very similar way to what would happen if you ate a really high sodium diet.
Right.
So it kind of affects the hormone aldosterone and our renin-angiotensin system. So how we kind of go about excreting sodium and how our body maintains fluid balance.
Right.
So a lot of the time as women go through this transition, they experience quite a shift in body weight. It may not necessarily be body fat. More often than not, it is just a transient rise in total body water due to those shifts in hormones. And until they go and see their endocrinologist, they get on some kind of medication if that's necessary to get them back into the normal ranges.
Right.
It can be a really frustrating space where they just feel stuck and it's like, oh, it doesn't matter what I do, nothing works. So my process is still very similar. I mean, I still have to do an initial nutrition assessment and make sure, what's your past? Like, how did we get here in the first place? And then, just going through those motions of, okay, well, right now, if we tried to diet you, your diet calories might be 1,200 calories. if you're willing to do that, I will support that. We have a hard cutoff where we won't diet someone on a certain amount of calories per kilogram of their lean body mass. It's just unrealistic, not sustainable. But if they're there, it probably means we have to do the reverse diet first. And it might mean that we're not focusing on weight loss right now. We're just working on restoring your metabolism. So in the future, dieting can be successful for you, because right now we've got nothing to pull from. There's no calories to take, and you're already working the candle at both ends. So the process is very similar. It's just identifying, I guess, the different things that can kind of influence our day-to-day weight fluctuations.
And I think that's really, really good, because a lot of women beat themselves up. And, when you get into your 50s, I actually have to take a topical estrogen, take a topical testosterone, so that I actually have some. The other side. And then working out is one of the best ways to balance some of that. But if you don't have somebody like you speaking to that, it can all become, I'm the only one, or, I'm just going to have to starve myself, which combats the problem. Reverse dieting, everybody really needs your guide on reverse dieting. They really do. They also need your food prep hacks you're one of the few people I know on the planet who can make a cake, a pie, a whatever, and you're like salivating and the macros still fit. It's like, oh my gosh, and just it's a few tweaks. It's not 5 hours in the kitchen. It's just a few tweaks.
It's not. And I think that's something really important as well. Like, I'm busy. People are busy. People have children. They have several jobs. They might be like a single mom, whatever the case. Maybe you're retired and you're trying to make this your priority. Like, it doesn't matter who you are. Like, everybody is time poor. So one of the big things that I really try to stand true to when it comes to recipe development is not putting a list this long of ingredients, because I don't want to be in the kitchen like doing that.
No.
I laughed. The other day I saw a video pop up on my feed, and it was like quick and easy. I don't know. It was like a Thai dish. Anyway, it was this like chef, and I kid you not, the camera pans over all of the herbs. There were 30 ingredients.
And I have 7 or 8 not in my house. So then I got to run to the store. By the time you run to the store, who wants to make that dang thing?
Exactly. I was like, I feel like I'm pretty competent in like food science and food awareness. I'm like, I don't even know what that is. That is not a simple recipe. So yeah, I think that was something that was really important to me. Like, in all of the recipes that I have in the books, I try to keep them as simple as possible, but sometimes like you got to get a little creative if you're trying to hit very low calories. You have to give a little bit of love. You can't just expect things to fall on your plate. I have learned you've got to work hard if you want to get somewhere in life.
We do. So tell us, Holly, where we can get the information on the reverse dieting, the Carbon app, which I think anybody listening needs to get the Carbon app, whether you work out or not. It is like, it's a great tool for accountability and helping you stay on track without feeling like there's only one way to do it.
Right. So Carbon Diet Coach, I'll start with that. So basically that is, it's been developed by my husband, Layne Norton, and fellow dietitian Keith Craker. So we wrote a logic that replicates essentially what we would do as coaches. So it's like, if this, then this, if this, then this. It will coach you exactly the way that we would respond to a client for fat loss, for reverse dieting, and for muscle gain. And it also helps you stay at maintenance. And you can find that at www.joincarbon.com. It's available on Android and iOS. And
so good. We'll put that in the description too. Thank you.
I think the positive support we've received from people that have started using it is just overwhelming. Like, my heart is filled every time I go and check our Facebook page. The group page is incredible. As for the books, we have books. One of the books is called The Complete Contest Prep Guide. We have another book called Fat Loss Forever. These are highly valuable books, a lot of education, but they take what seemingly is complicated science, and we really kind of dull it down, make it far more comprehensive and understandable to the lay population. So it's a tool guide to help you implement fat loss if you're somebody that wants to try and learn and do it yourself. And then, of course, how to sustain it. And then the reverse dieting guide obviously goes through who it's appropriate for, how to implement it, how do you manage your training and all the other things that kind of go into it. they can be found at the BioLayne store, and it's simply biolanestore.com.
So good. So good. Well, this has been so fun. And I look forward to sometimes our lives are going to connect and we're going to have a great workout and then we're going to go eat together.
Oh, yes. Yes, girl. Sure.
Thank you for taking the time and appreciate you so much.
No, thank you so much for having me. It's been awesome.